Thank you for joining us on our journey here to preserve the history of mixed martial arts. When I wanted to take on this project, I needed help. I brought in one of my favorite matchmakers, Miguel Iturrate, and the MMA detective, Mike Davis. So to do this, we've been able to preserve history. Welcome and enjoy.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Lytes Out Podcast. Miguel and Mike here holding down the fort. Chris Lytle, the boss man, is on the road right now, but we couldn't wait. We couldn't wait, right, Mike? I mean, we couldn't wait. Come on, man. You know, we have our favorite thing. It's also Chris's favorite thing, but a deep dive interview with the Snowman, Jeff Monson. This is 50 Fight Club stuff. And the thing about, amazing thing about Jeff is, if you look at Sherdog, he's almost got 50 fights twice, right? He's close to 90 fights there. And that doesn't even take into account his legendary grappling career, which is, you know, another 100 fights at least, right? So 50 Fight Club member Jeff Monson, live from Russia. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on. Yeah.
Man,
right.
Great to have
Jeff,
you. Mike,
so one of my favorite things about yourself is, like, you're known to protest. And one of my favorite protests was the 2004 Gracie Arnold's. So now that, you know, we're what 16, 17 years removed from it.
Yeah.
Would you mind, like, giving a brief description of what your takeaways from that moment are today?
Well, I found out that because I was really new to American Top Team. So there we are. I was really new to American Top Team. And all these guys are Brazilian on my team. Like, I was like one of me and Wade Rome, I think, were the only American guys, white guys on the team. Everybody's Brazilian. Arnold Gracie. And I got Pe De Pano in the final. And it was like $2,500 first prize and like $1,000 second prize. So back then, you know, like that many years ago, that was pretty good for grappling. And you had to, like, remember, like, when I went to these tournaments, it was a little different this time because I went with American Top Team, and I think I flew with the owner, Dan Lambert, took us like there in his jet and stuff like that. But most of the time, I'd go to these tournaments, and like I had to win in order to not lose money, you know, because I bought a flight there. And then I stayed in the hotel, and like usually I stayed with like Scotty from On the Mat or something like that. Like almost always I'd hook up with someone to like sleep with on the floor on a spare bed or something like that. But on this trip I was with Dan, so that was good. But normally, man, if I remember, like, I went to Vegas and made it to the finals and lost to Dean Lister, who at that time was like a no, not Dean Lister. Who's that guy that had the big rivalry with Dean Lister? I don't know. I think of it. Anyway, I lost to him like by advantage or something like that.
Drysdale?
What's that?
Rob Drysdale?
No.
Okay. Keep it going, Jeff. Sorry.
Okay, I'm switching spots here. White guy. Sorry, gonna get dark for a second, guys.
It's 3 a.m. where Jeff's at, I might add. Like, we are completely upending his house while doing this interview.
I'm switching the rooms because the baby woke up and was in with mom, so I'm just going into her room. There we go. Anyway, Kick. Guy, he's real famous. Shaved his head. He fought in the UFC. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I lost like by advantage. And man, I remember this was in Vegas, and I was just like so bummed. Spent like $200 on a plane ticket and like food and all this stuff. And I was coming back like broke, you know? So it was like all these tournaments were like this. If you didn't win, you came back broke. So I was like, really, wasn't that I wanted to win, but I really had to win because they were poor. But anyway, so I had Pe De Pano in the finals, and he pulled guard, and then maybe 2 or 3 minutes into it, I put a can opener on him. He has his guard closed. And so he taps almost immediately, like a heart, like bam, 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 bam. Like, not just like, oh, it hurts, like, but like I'm dying, like tap. And so he jumps up and like immediately goes to the ref, starts complaining. And I raise my hands, I win. And I'd beaten him like the week before or maybe 2 weeks before in Florida. And he had beaten me like a year earlier in Abu Dhabi. So we kind of had a rivalry going. And so he's complaining that like it was against the rules and this. And I was saying, no, it wasn't against the rules. And so it's just like a big, I guess I thought it was like half hour, but I guess it was like 45 minutes or so. And it was just craziness. His team and my like American Top, they're screaming in Portuguese for 45 minutes going back. At some point during this, I'm just like, you know what? I went back on the mat and I would get on my knees and I'm like, I might like saying, let's go. Let's fight again.
The referee also called for additional time, 2 or 3 different occasions over the intercom.
Yeah. He and Cooper,
John
Cooper, he was saying, okay, let's just restart it, like go from there. And you were fine with it. Yeah, I was fine, even though he told me, because I just knew I was going to beat him. I had his number. He didn't want to fight. Like, he just didn't want to fight. I'm like, who? I couldn't see. That's what I couldn't understand. It's like somebody that's a competitor. He'd won Abu Dhabi in the year that he beat me. And I'm like, this guy doesn't want to fight. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, he doesn't want to grapple. Like, it's crazy. It's like, you're not going to get hurt. It's like, you don't want to compete. Like, why are you here? So he's just looking for a way out. And I think he set this up. I think he just planned this, you know, so it's crazy. But anyway, they go on. And then at some point, some couple that had taped the interview, or had taped, like had done interviews and was taping the tournament, said, hey, here's the rule meeting, and showed Helson Gracie saying, yeah, you can use a can opener to open the guard. Once you open the guard, you gotta let go. Like, it's right there. Like, they're like saying, it's right here. You said it's from your mouth. And he's just going, no, like, I know the rules. I made this tournament. And like, you said the rules that you were asked this question. So it was going on. And at some point, Pe De Pano was like saying, oh, we're not going to bring our guys here anymore. We're going to blackball you. Like, you're going to be, you know, all this other stuff. Like,
who were they saying this to?
They're saying this to Helson Gracie. Like Pe De Pano. He's saying that, and I didn't know what he was saying. They told me later because it was all in Portuguese. But they're telling him, like, we're gonna run you out of town. We're gonna, like, you're not gonna be welcome back in Brazil. Like, all this stuff. I don't know how much of it they could actually follow through with. But anyway, Pe De Pano was a big name, especially at that point. You know, Abu Dhabi champ and this. So he had some pull, but I don't know what he could have done. But anyway. And Helson goes, in my mind, you're the winner. And he told the referee, or the ref was, like, to announce him the winner. They raised his hand. I took him down, the ref, and then all hell broke loose. And I pulled down, I remember going out, I pulled down the, like, speaker wires, and, like, the thing fell down and all this. I was just pissed. But, I mean, Pe De Pano did split the money at the end. So I can't, my teammate went up to him and said, are you going to at least follow through with that? And he did. So, but yeah, it was crazy, man. It's crazy.
So the one thing that gets neglected in this story, whenever it's retold, was I was there, like, for for that portion, but for the earlier, like, part of the tournament I was. And what's neglected is that your teammate, Wade Rome, it was arguable that Wade actually should have deserved points that he never got. And because of that, he lost his match against Pe De Pano.
Yeah, in the semis.
So it really should have been you and Wade Rome in the final.
Yeah, that was. I didn't watch that match because obviously I was grappling myself. So, but yeah, it was pretty controversial that he even made the finals. So, yeah, I don't know. This was the second time at the Arnold's I got really, really robbed. I got robbed like 2 years earlier against an American top team guy that before was American top team, believe it or not. So
tell that story, Jeff.
Well, you know Dustin Dennis.
Oh yeah.
Clean.
Oh yeah,
well,
for sure.
This is before I knew the guy, and so I went to the tournament and we did it was a super match. It was like for $2,000, and so I had to win to get $2,000. You had to win. And so I really like, man, I bought my own ticket, the same scenario. And so I did a match with them, and they go, the rules that you can't pull guard, or it's like, or you lose your points. You lose 2 points. You pull guard, and there's no advantages, points only. If it's a draw, you split it. You split the grand, right? So, okay. So I do this match with him. And Dan Lambert, all these guys, I didn't know any of these guys. Like, you know what I mean? Because this was before American Top Team. This was what I think it was Silveria brothers at this point, Marcelo and Conan Silveria.
Yeah.
And so he pulled guard right away. So I think, okay, it's 2-0. And maybe 4 or 5 minutes into it, we go out of bounds. I look at the scoreboard, it's 0-0. And I'm like, what the hell? And I complain, and they're like they acted like they didn't, that wasn't part of the rules. So anyway, I'm like, whatever. So this next part, nothing happened for a few minutes. I try to pass his guard, nothing. And then they go, man, I gotta score. I gotta win this fight. I can't do a draw. And so for the next 5 minutes, I just went there. I think it was a 10-minute match. I just went crazy trying to pass. I got put in probably 2 or 3 arm bars, 2 or 3 triangles. You know what I mean? I got out of everything, but we ended the match nothing. And then they raised his hand, and I'm like, I thought there were no advantages. And same thing. Helsing came out and goes, "You're the winner." Just said, so I threw a fit. I shook his hand because he had nothing to do with it, but I bitched and complained. Nothing like the Arnolds or later with Pe De Pano, but I was bitching. And I remember Dan Lambert later, he goes, "Man, I didn't know. I thought you were just a little bitch." Because you were complaining and stuff before, and I knew you. And I go, "Man, I really got robbed." I'm so hard on myself. You know what I mean? I didn't win that fight. I didn't deserve to win it, even though I pulled guard, but I definitely didn't lose it. So I don't know. I'm not hard on myself. If I didn't deserve to win,
Okay. Let me backtrack a little bit. So in that Pe De Pano incident, Elio Soneca sucker punched you. It was part of the melee that all went down. Yeah. In fact, Carlos Diaz, another American top, one of the guys that were there. He actually went after him, and I believe Wade Rome stopped him because I remember being at the melee after everything kind of went down and caught up with it. Did you ever run into any of these people that you had issues with, John Cooper, Elio Soneca, or Helson? What were your interactions with these people after this event?
The guy he's a little guy who tried to sucker punch you, right?
No, he definitely punched you.
Yeah, but he's a little guy, yeah?
He is.
Yeah, no, I never. Yeah, no, I never had I don't know if I ever saw him again, but he definitely never had never talked to him. John, with Cooper and stuff, I came back. I was barred the next year from the tournament. Then after that, I came back the following year and won again. And there's no problem. And then Pe De Pano, of course, I fought him again. So I fought him, grappled him. So that kind of got laid to rest. I just beat that didn't compete, but I didn't really have any hard feelings against him because I don't know.
How do you think your matches, your grappling matches with Pe De Pano, affected your rematch with him? I should say your fight with him, because it was your first time under MMA rules in the UFC in 2006.
I just made me think I was going to win because I didn't respect him. I didn't respect him as a fighter. I think he can't. He's afraid to grapple me, because he's afraid to lose. He's definitely not going to, fight. He did better fighting than I expected. He really worked on. He kicked me quite a bit in that fight, I think. But I didn't ever think he could beat me. I wasn't afraid. I had no fear of him, as a competitor. You know what I mean? Someone like Xande Ribeiro, something like that. I would respected getting subbed or something like that. You know what I mean? I had to be careful, and I respected his talent. I respected Pe De Pano's like ability, but I didn't respect that he could beat me.
So did you think that there was a mental aspect going into it because of that, as well as were you surprised that he even took the fight?
I mean, it was his chance, I guess. I just thought when they offered that fight, I was pretty excited because I was like, this guy wants to fight. You know what I mean? Like, because like at the Arnold, for example, if it was a point like, oh, he wants to fist fight me, I would have felt like I was going to beat his ass. You know what I mean? But yeah. So I guess I just thought he couldn't beat me. You know what I mean? He did better than I expected, and it wasn't my best fight, but
you stopped him. I mean, you won by TKO.
Yeah, actually, no, it was a decision, actually.
Was it a decision? I thought you won by TKO. Okay.
Yeah, and I heard him a couple times, but yeah, like it wasn't my best fight. But anyway, I was never like I was never in danger. I was never threatened. I just think that in all my matches, I was never really threatened by him. So
okay, all right. So you've got such like a real long and illustrious career that I've just picked a couple highlights out for us to talk about. One of which was UFC 29 Japan. I saw that bout was scheduled for UFC 28 in Atlantic City, and it got postponed and pushed to the very next event. What's the story behind that postponement?
So I had in New Jersey, I trained really hard for this fight, and I was really like jacked up for it. And I had, but like back, this is UFC not under Zuffa, and so they had, I had the medicals like the day before, like in New Jersey, and I came back that I had some calcium deposit, which I guess is pretty common in the brain, but they didn't have enough time to check it out to clear me. And so they wouldn't let me fight. I found out like a few hours before the fight. Like I had already made weight. I'd already weighed in the day of the fight, or the night before. I found out probably like 3 hours before we were walking out to the ring, because I was getting an IV at the time actually to rehydrate. And they're like, "Oh, don't bother. You're not. The fight's off." So they rescheduled it for Japan. And, I had a there's one month later, I had a grappling match with Mark Robinson, a big tournament. And I had to keep my weight low. And man, when I was pretty drained when I went to Japan. So it was a terrible fight, really. He beat the hell out of my leg, broke my rib, like smashed me. And, it was a learning experience. That's for sure. Like he was at a different fight level. He had a better understanding of a fight game. I mean, I just really realized it at that point.
Now Matt Hume was your corner at that event, and Dennis Hallman. I think Dennis Hallman actually fought on that event. How was your experience with Japan? Then it was kind of the Wild West days, in that country.
So Dennis won by Matt Hume, like quick.
Hughes.
Yeah, Matt Hume, like quick. Yeah. Matt Hume was like, he won quick. So I remember Dennis and I were cut. We both had to cut a lot of weight, so we're cutting weight, and so the main event was Yuki Kondo against
Tito.
Help me out here.
Tito.
Tito Ortiz. And so I'm fighting Chuck Lidell. Tito and Chuck are friends at this point. And so
so wait, Tito and Chuck made their pact at this point.
Did they? Yeah.
I don't know. There's a whole documentary on Jeff. It's phenomenal. Like Lidell is just like, I don't even know what he's talking about. So go ahead. I apologize. Go ahead.
Oh no. Yeah. So at least they're friends at this point. And so,
okay.
But we're all cutting a lot of weight. Yuki Kondo, he's like 195 pounds soaking wet. And so this is when UFC, this is like 200, they're 199. You had to weigh under 200, not 205. And so I'm cutting a lot of weight. Dennis cut a lot of weight. And I remember being in this, they wouldn't let me in the main workout area because of my tattoos, because of that. In Japan, like tattoos are associated with gangs and stuff like that, or the mafia. So like they're really looked, even taxi ride, I couldn't get in a taxi. Some taxis wouldn't give me a ride because I had tattoos and stuff. So it's crazy there.
Wow.
Because it's really like the mafia. The only people that at this time only like mafia people had tattoos. So anyway, I got into so we're cutting weight in like the actual hotel downstairs instead of the like workout facility for all the other people. And so we're working out and like in the steam rooms and out on the bikes and we're dying, man. And I'm like, I'm done because I've been cutting weight for like really 6 weeks at this point for the other fight and now again, and I'm done. So I like got on this thing and I was like just barely over 200 pounds. So I'm like, okay, I'm good. And so I go in this like cold pool. It's like a free, like really cold, like water, feels so good. I'm not drinking it obviously because I can't put on weight, but I'm like gurgling it and like dumping it and just like, oh God. And these like Japanese guys, like business guys come up with a towel. They come and they sit down, they like at the edge of it, put their ass and their balls and stuff, and they're scrubbing. Like it's just that's all it's for. It's like to put your ass in there. It's like a big bidet kind of thing. Oh God! But I was like, I don't know if you've ever been so tired that you just didn't care. Like you just like, and so. Gosh. But anyway, so after we're done, I go, okay, we're on like the doctor's scale downstairs, like I'm pretty close. And so we go to the lady that was in charge, like the assistant. And I go, hey, can we check the roller scale? It's Yuki Kondo's like bathroom gym scale. It's like a bathroom scale, like on the floor. Is the
lady Elaine McCarthy?
What's that? What's her name?
Was it Elaine McCarthy? Was it John's wife's dude?
No.
Okay.
No. And yeah, I can see her. I just can't think of her name, man. And so we go into she just gives us her key to the room. So we go into her room, find the bathroom scale, the official scale for the UFC, and we get on it. I'm like 6 pounds, 5.5 pounds over. I'm like, and Dennis is the same. I'm like,
after the cut,
huh?
After all that.
No, they check themselves on the official scale ahead of time, and they're 5 over.
No way.
Yeah. So I'm like, break the scale, Dennis. Like, break it. So he gets on the right bathroom counter and jumps down on the scale. And now we're like 14 or 15 pounds over. And I'm like, fucking just busted down. So he jumps on like 3 or 4 more times. And then we get on it. When we kind of like lean back a little bit, we're like, I'm like 1 under, like I'm like a half under. I'm like, okay. So we put it back. We like run out of there, sneak out, put everything back the way it was. And we're like, okay. So being like fair, we went and talked to Tito and said, bro, like go check yourself on the scale. And if you lean back a little bit, and I told Chuck too, I'm like, man, I don't want to like screw you but they're trying to screw us. So we can at least be on the same page. And so go check your weight now, but lean back a little bit. If you lean back, you'll like be on weight, or be at whatever. So the next morning when we had the weigh-in, it's nothing like the UFC now, man. UFC now, they announce your name and they do the face off, all this. Here was like a high school wrestling meet. People just kind of lined up as they are. They come in there, you get on, they check your weight. Okay, this guy's made it. Okay, this guy's made it. And so we were the first in line. We were like there half hour early. As soon as they go, okay, we're up. Okay, so we weigh in and we're up and down the Gatorades and everything like quick. And as soon as Yuki Kondo got on, he's like, what? Now he's like 10 pounds under or something. He knows that we fucked with the scale. And so he's complaining. The wrestler complained, and they're like, no, we have to use a different scale. And we're like, Matt Hume is like, bro, they've already been drinking. They're over, they're obviously not going to make weight twice. So there's no way. So it was a big ordeal. What can they say? They were cheating. So
was Matt Hume in on it as well?
He knew about it.
That's the best guy. That's the best guy to coordinate everything.
Especially in Japan, if you need somebody to argue your case, that's a good guy to stand behind and just let him do the talking.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because they were ready to. I mean, Yuki Khan, they were ready to like start pulling fights and stuff. I mean, they were that angry that like because we wouldn't get on a different scale or that, and we're like no. So actually on a different scale, we probably would have still made weight even after drinking because we're, what I mean. But,
as long as it was legit, right?
Yeah, we made it legit, and that's what we had. We didn't feel bad about it because we legitimately suffered and made weight. So it wasn't like, and even the night and after we made, like we screwed up the scale, whatever. Like we didn't, at that point we were right on, just like we were downstairs at the doctor scale. So we're on like we would be at a normal. Even if they brought in a doctor scale, like they didn't use Yuki Kanno's jacked up scale. We'd still make weight because we legitimately made weight. So we didn't feel bad at all about this. So.
You got to imagine Yuki, one person after another making weight. And he's like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Well, he was like, he knew they would make because everyone was going to obviously check their weight on the scale, but they were going to have to suffer more. They were going to have to like lose 5 more additional pounds. He like, you know what? I'm fighting Tito Ortiz and he's big. He's a big 200-pound guy, that he's probably 230 walking around. I'm going to make him suffer and lose more weight and hurt more and like be more dehydrated and everything else. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if the organization is going to give you the official scale, you'd be foolish not to tilt it your way anyway,
Yeah, right.
So how would you describe your relationship with Dennis Hallman?
Crazy. So,
can you give us a few examples? Because we've heard stories.
Oh yeah. So Dennis and I met at a wrestling tournament. Like he's from Yelm, which is a little hick town close to Olympia, Washington, where I'm from. And so we met like after our senior years. No, after I was done with college, and we started hanging out a little bit because we were at some wrestling tournaments, and then he got me in. He kind of the one that kind of said, "Hey, come to Matt Hume, come train with me," this kind of thing. So he kind of got me into it a little bit. And I remember we used to work out all the time, and at this point, like I couldn't figure out jiu-jitsu. I couldn't figure out grappling. I remember him like trying to teach me an armbar for. Like him just going, Jeff, like, I can't understand how you can't get this. And it's weird. It was strange. But anyway, like we were at his house one time and we always messing around with each other. And he's lived in this little hick area and we're going out and he's got his like recycling bins outside with like full of, bottles and all this stuff. So I'm driving. When I drive away, I knock it over on purpose. I drive over and I laugh. He's in the yard with his kid and I'm laughing. I'm going, hey, see you later. And drive away. So the next day at work, man, I'm working in a mental health facility, at this point, I have a master's degree in psychology, working with like severely mentally ill people. I have my own office in the local mental health at the county mental health building and stuff. So it's like it's big thing, And he comes to my work. I don't know he's at my work, and the secretary calls back to my office and said, "I think you should go out and check your car. There's somebody messing with your car." And so I'm like, "Oh, but I just knew it was him. It was weird." So I come to I go out there and my car, like he's driving away with my front passenger seat. Him and his buddy went and unscrewed my driver's seat of my car, took it and drove it. So I have no seat to sit on in my car. And so what? And then I get a call like a couple hours later. It goes, hello, it's Jeff Monson. We have a prisoner of war, and you have to like I don't know. It was some stupid like admit that I'm the king or something like that. And I go, no, forget you. So I think I put a bag of leaves or something in my car to make it home. And as I get home that night, I come to my house, and this remember I'm poor, so I live in a little what do you call it?
Easy way to get your ass whooped if you're Dennis Hallman,
Yeah.
I might add. You know what I mean? A poor, angry dude that's, a heavyweight.
Yeah. Okay,
so go ahead.
I gotta. So keep in mind, he's the wrong person to mess with because he's from this little town of Yom, and he's like the king there. Like he's in the UFC. He's he won the state wrestling titles in UFC. Like he's the king. So he's got all these lackeys that would do anything. These young guys that will do anything to be his buddy. So he had nothing. So he had an army of guys that are willing to do anything for him. And so it was one against like a town, really. And so I come home, like 5 o'clock or 5:30. I come to my home, my modular home, and the roof is flat. It's like a modular home. All the furniture of our living room is on the roof. Like him and his buddy took my couch, my TV, the chairs, all the things and set up, but he set it up set it up, not just dumped it up there, set it up like the couch was here. It was all arranged nicely. Like you just have a living room on top of your house. The cat was up there. The cat hopped up there, was sitting in one of the chairs. So I'm like, so I didn't, man. So this thing went on and on. I can't really say what I did back to him, but he got me back. So he got me back. I did some stuff to him. Went to his house, but he got me back. I went to this. We were actually got called to do one of my his dad's friends was a dentist, and he had a big Halloween party every year. It was Halloween, massive. He just decked it out. It was an adult Halloween party. And so he said he'd come be security at this park. It was out on a farmhouse and all this, in the barn and all this. And so you can dress up, have fun, just make sure nothing bad happens, It's like, okay. So we went and we did this for security and all this stuff. And so he gives me an envelope at the end of the night, and with picture, he goes, this is for your ride home. So me and my wife were like, oh, what the hell is this? So we look at the envelope, we open the pictures on it. So during this party, some of his lackeys went to my house, broke in, and I got it wrong. It was before they had broken in at some other time, because he gave me the pictures, and it showed him urinating. It showed my toothbrushes, showed the toilet, showed him urinating on the toothbrushes, all of them, just in case, I said, no, that wasn't the one I used, because he got all of them. And then he put them in this envelope to show me and so I don't even know when he had done it. You know what I mean? So it was basically you're not safe no matter what. So
how do you still maintain a friendship with an individual that's pushing it to this limit?
It's me, Seldready, host of the Follow the Movement podcast. Walk with me as I take you on a journey covering all things football, military, music, my life, and everything in between. When I wake up in the morning, I ask myself, what's the move for today? So I ask you, what's the move for you? Click the link in the show notes and join me as we make the move together. Thank you for your time, and remember to follow the movement. Peace.
I don't know. I guess both have a sixth sense of humor or something.
Well, let me, for those that it's not clear, he's talking about Dennis Hallman. And when you're talking about, one of the guys that has some things on his resume that are getting forgotten, and you mentioned it, he beat Matt Hughes. He beat Matt Hughes and then did it again,
Twice.
And he was a hell of a fighter, and he would have been, you like you said, your track to Matt Hughes. You guys were on that original Abu Dhabi team together. So talk a little bit about Hallman as a fighter before Mike takes him to the next step of the interview.
He's one of those guys that just, especially with the grappling part, amazing, man. He just has. I mean, there's different kinds of intelligence. Some people like can hear music and like learn how to play piano like quickly, or learn like 2 or 3 different languages like easily, or are good with math. And then there's the sports, the sport thing, like people are able to do certain kind of moves. He just could see something that like Matt would teach him, and then he would know it after Matt would show him one time, and he would figure it out. And then he would, not only that, he would like be able to add stuff to it, or like his own thing. And he was also able to teach it really well, which is also, there's a lot of good like fighters and jiu-jitsu guys that can't teach really. It's a different kind of ability to be able to teach. And I'm amazed, because I like now something clicked with me a few years ago where I just like understood it all of a sudden, where I never did before. Like I just didn't get it. But some click, and now I can teach it. I understand it. I can figure things out. But he's at a different level. You know what I mean? He was always at a different level than even that. And so yeah, it's quite amazing. I think with more discipline, I think he could have been even better than he was.
Yeah, the one thing that's kind of surprising to me, that it's not well known, that him and Jens Pulver are both from the same state. And there was like a rivalry between those two dating back to high school. Like there was genuine like neighborhood issues between the two of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were, they both wrestled, and they both had the background, and there was something. You look back, I'm still surprised he didn't beat Jens Pulver. Jens Pulver is a little underrated, I think, as a fighter, even though he won the UFC title. But I mean, I think Dennis was like quite a bit better than I think than Jens Pulver.
The resume speaks for itself. He's got 2 wins over Matt Hughes. All right. One thing's like when I look at, I think we're having a little issue with your volume, Jeff. I don't know if it's being obstructed or not.
There you go. Is that better?
One more time.
Is that better?
Yeah. So sometimes, like when you look at people like fighters in general, there's one thing that stands out on the record where people go, wait a minute, that's their coming out party. Like this is when like they really leveled up and became who it is they were en route to becoming. And on your record, that person, it took place in the WEF, and it was Forrest Griffen. I remember watching that fight, listening to it, but when I rewatch it years later, my opinion of it is a little different than what it was when I first remembered it. What do you recall about you and Forrest Griffen in your bout and your feelings about it?
Well, I mean, at the time, I got like heat exhaustion in this fight. And so they did it. I just remember them doing it. Like I felt I won the fight. And then we went into an overtime. And in the overtime, he just kicked my ass. Like, for that. It was like, and then I remember like just not being able to even make it back to the locker room. Not from being beat up, but just from the heat exhaustion. I remember we got back in the shower. They put me in the shower for like 10, 15 minutes. I couldn't open my eyes. I couldn't like lift my finger. I was still in my shorts and my gloves. I couldn't move. And then it just something like the temperature got below a certain point, and I was, okay, everything's normal. I remember we went out to like a restaurant afterwards and all this stuff with the guys. I was just disappointed in the fight, but I felt like I'd worked out hard, like cardio workout, but didn't feel like I was like that tired. I hadn't, I could like, I can go fight again. And then I looked, when I looked at the fight on the film, I thought, man, I really won all 3 rounds.
I thought so too.
Like I took him down a bunch of times. I kept standing us up. I kept taking him down. Like, I didn't do much. I didn't do any damage really. I mean, I was trying to hit him. I didn't just hold him, but there was like no damage at all to either one of us during the fight. But like I absolutely controlled the fight. It was like,
did you think the referee was a little slanted against you and his style of fighting that you employed?
I mean, it's just one of the local guys. I mean, sorry, guys. Sorry. about that. He's just a local guy, local hero, like Forrest Griffen. He was Athens, Georgia, and his home crowd. And I think that, I mean, you don't like to say that played into it, but I mean, I think it was pretty obvious that
you were in like dominant positions working, and the referee would just stand you up arbitrarily for like no reason whatsoever. When like, I don't know. I got, and then here, let's look at the other factors. Jamie Levine, we've talked about him several times on this podcast. He was a promoter for the WEF. What was your relationship like with Jamie Levine? What are your personal feelings about him?
Well, I just most of it's just all the stuff I've heard, like none of it good. He did this and that, but Dan Lambert owned American Top Team, and Dan like supplied him with a lot of fighters, and I think helped him out like financially or made it like cost effective for him to have our fighters on the card. So like I don't think he would ever he wouldn't want to make Dan angry. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think Levine had anything to do with me not getting the decision in that fight. But yeah, his track record, I guess, speaks for itself.
Did you hear the ref or the judges' scorecards? It was 13-8, 12-4, and then something inaudible. Like, I don't know what scoring system they applied to your fight for it to even go into overtime. But a 13-8 and 12-4 needing an overtime period, I don't even know what that means.
No, I don't know. What's a 12-4? Like,
I have no idea.
This isn't baseball. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't know. I mean, there's so many red flags about that fight. Like you said, it's his hometown. The referee standing up. Like, to me, it's like, that's not his coming out party, unfortunately. It's Jeff. I thought you got robbed. Let's move on to Tim Sylvia. So you fight Tim Sylvia for the UFC title.
Yeah.
But what's alarming about that fight is that you have a 3-win, 1-loss run in the UFC. You get a title fight, and then right after the title fight, you get released, and you end up going to Pride, I believe.
Yeah. Well, we asked for the release.
Really?
Yeah, we asked for it because what happened is I fought him, and I knew it was going to be forever. It was a terrible fight. It was like, as a matter of fact, it's funny because I just scanning through like the internet the other day. I just said the 10 worst. Like I was looking at some video with me, and then showing some move position for my class, and then I just see how they have like related things, and then it said the 10 worst UFC title fights, and I guess I was number 5. So yeah,
hey, at least you weren't number 1.
No, but the number 5, and so I read it, like, oh, why? But yeah, it was terrible. It was a terrible. Even if I had won, it would have been a terribly boring fight. But man, I trained really hard for that fight, and it was like really disappointing to lose. And he just fought smarter than me. But it's a story about that is so Tim. After I've thought about that fight probably almost every day since that fight. It's like because your life changes. You're like, oh, I fought for the UFC title, or I was the UFC champion at some point. It's a big difference. And so it would have changed my life at some way, and I'll never know how. But so I thought about this fight. So in Russia, I was thinking about in the mayor of this city said, hey, we're putting this grappling tournament on. And is there anybody we want you to do a super fight? Is there anybody in the world you want to fight? And I was thinking, yeah, all these jiu-jitsu guys is this. And I thought, fucking Tim Sylvia. And so they go, really? And they go, yeah. And they got a hold of me. He's like, so he's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. And he goes, yeah, I'll do it. And they paid him the money, got him the visa. He flew out here. And so it was like the main event. So I did this grappling match with him, like how many years later after that, this is like 3 years ago. And so, yeah, I got him and subbed him this time. But I was like afterward, I told him, because we went out to dinner afterwards. We're kind of buddy a little bit now, even though
why not? Sure.
And so we talk a little. text once in a while and stuff. Even though like we're way different, but we're like, so we're both competitors. We both respect each other.
It's a lot of mutual experience, man. A lot of mutual experience.
And I tell him, I go, bro, I'd sure love to switch the wins with you. Like I'll take the UFC win and you can take this grappling one. But he told me, because we were talking about the fight afterwards, and I go, we were at the dinner and we're talking about our UFC fight. And I'm like, man, I don't know what the fuck happened. Like I remember I lost the first 2 rounds, like just controlled by trying to get you down. But man, I didn't feel nothing, man. I was in the best shape of my life, the best shape. And I thought, I'm fine, man. He hasn't hurt me. I'm doing good. And then the beginning of the third, I thought, I'm going to win this fight. At the beginning of the third round, like 30 seconds in, I take you down. And then, like, I don't know what the fuck I did on top. I didn't do anything on top. I couldn't pass your guard. I was at north-south one time, and then we flipped out. And he said, Jeff, when you passed my guard, when you went over, I elbowed you in the side of the head. And you were out for like a second and a half. Like you were, and I was like, John, he's out. You were out. And by the time John got there, you were like conscious again. And so you kept fighting. But like you were, like I was out because I don't remember the fight hardly. I don't remember what happened in the third, fourth, and fifth. I remember a little bit of the third. I don't remember nothing in the fourth or fifth, like zero what happened in the fight. And I he goes, man, I knocked you out. Like,
with all due respect to Tim Sylvia, and you said he's a brown belt and he's got his grappling, what he's done, but nobody gets out of Jeff's north-south position, man. Come on.
No, but in this fight he did. You know what I mean? Like I had him in, and I just waited there. And man, I've never watched this fight fully. I just still can't, but I watched a little bit of that third round, and I was like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? And it makes sense now. But I mean, just that's fighting, man. One elbow, he did it. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a fluke. He got it. I mean, he could have, a second or two more and they would have called the fight, because I was out. But I was able to continue, but not the same way, and that was it, man.
So the obvious question is, why did you then ask for your release after that bout?
Because after that, Sylvia got beat by Couture right after that. And so then Tim Sylvia was out of the UFC. And
yeah, they cut him quick.
And then Sylvia fought Fedor. And Fedor beat Sylvia like in a minute or maybe less. And so I had the opportunity to fight Fedor. And for me, and still, he's like the best ever heavyweight. People were like, oh man, this guy, what about this guy, like Cormier? Those guys are good. But man, he fought the best for 12. He didn't lose for 12 years. 12 years fighting the best of the best. And he never had a close match. It was never like he either beat you, like submitted you or knocked you out, or he like dominated every minute of the fight. Like, look at him fight Nogueira. Like he just in Croc. They survived, but these were different. But they were at the best. That was like the best Croc, the best Nogueira, like when they were in their prime, and he beat their ass.
Which fight impressed me of his? Was against the giant Korean guy. And it's just, because how do you factor in fighting a guy 7 feet tall, 400 pounds? You know what I mean? It's like, how do you practice the whole thing? And, he got hurt in the fight and he won by armbar. He stuck with it. And, it makes for a ridiculous video. He's amazing. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, he's amazing. So I had the chance to fight this guy. So it was like, man, so I had nothing to lose, really, and the UFC had nothing to lose by granting my release, because it's like, if I were to beat him, it could, they could say, hey, the guy who didn't even win our title beat the best guy in the world. Mm-hmm. And if I lost, they could say, well, it's like, well, like he didn't win our title either. So
you fought Fedor but it was a while after that. So the negotiations between your camp and Fedor's camp must have fallen apart. What happened?
That we had a fight. Me and Fedor were fighting, and the fight, I forgot what fight card it was on. The whole thing got canceled. The whole, not just our fight, the whole fight card. So yeah, that was going to be like just within months after the UFC fight. And so that fight got canceled. So then I see like Sylvia get in there, and then he beat then he fought a Matt Lindland. I'm like, man, jeez, this could be me, fighting. And with Pride, and remember with Pride at this point, the money was huge, like really big. I know Matt. I heard Matt Lindland got $600,000 for fighting Fedor.
Well, we got the guy that wrote the contract. Miguel, is this true?
Yeah, the Lindland fight was in Moscow for Bodog, but
yeah,
he made $500,000 for that. Yeah.
Okay, so the fight.
I'll tell you something that you might not know, Jeff, is that you were the number 2 choice for that fight. Like I didn't
really
final decision, and you, I don't know if you remember, but you had agreed to a much lesser price than that. And, unfortunately, politics and other people's voices and stuff, they elected to spend more money on Lindland. They thought it was a more appealing fight, kind of overruling me. I could go either way. I mean, I'm happy with the Lindland fight, but you were number 2, and Roy Nelson was the number 3 choice.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, when I fought Fedor, I made 40 or 50, made 50.
Okay. That's decent for the time, though. That's good.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, nothing. But yeah, it was good for me. I mean, I made
Jeff,
13.
Jeff, you're covering your microphone with your hand. All right, so I'm sorry. What did you say? You made 40 against Fedor?
50.
Uh-huh.
And I made 13 against Tim Sylvia for the UFC title. 1-3.
Nice.
Wow.
That's interesting.
I spent about six on like tickets for my family, friends, hotel, like all this other stuff. Like, so I didn't, it was like a wash.
I got a question. So after fighting Sylvia, you went to Sengoku to fight Fujita when you were trying to negotiate for the Fedor fight. Fujita's a big fight. How much did they pay you for that?
I think 40 or 50.
Well, you can't pass on that. I mean, you're making 3 times as much, for an easier fight.
Yeah, the UFC can match it or thank you.
So then you fight Josh Barnett and Sengoku.
Yeah.
Now the caveat is it's your former training partner.
Yeah.
How difficult was that taking that fight?
It wasn't hard. I mean, we were teammates and stuff like that, but it's a fight I wanted to fight. I wanted to win. I didn't have, it was a little strange, fighting him. I did. This fight is a fight I really would like back. I really shit down my leg. I just gave him, I really looked up to him, and I gave him, I guess, too much credit. I just remember in the first round, he's going, and I took him down, past his guard. I'm in the side, kind of hitting him. And I think, elbows were illegal for that. And I kind of clipped him with the elbow. And he's like, come on, Jeff, like, better than that or something like that. And it was like my dad scolded me. And I was like, oh, sorry, Josh. And after that, he pushed me off and then just kicked my ass the rest of the fight. And I was just like, I remember after the time, man, I just took a backseat to him. You know what I mean? I just literally took a backseat to him mentally, and let him,
get in your head,
yeah.
So you when you guys came out to the center of the ring, it looked like you were trying to have a conversation with him, and he wouldn't even give you eye contact. Was there some issues between the two of you?
I'm Shannon Jimenez Sasson, a former NYPD misconduct investigator, a podcaster, and a videographer.
I'm Nat W. I've been a social worker for a hot minute.
Working alongside the police left us with more doubt than encouragement.
We've tried in our career fields to be doers, and it still feels impossible.
Is it even possible to work alongside the police and not be part of the police state?
Fixing it does start with having the conversations.
It's everything that you should know about the police. It's going to be a hard conversation, but it's a hard topic. Not an Arc podcast premieres Tuesday, January 17th on all streaming platforms.
No, I think he's able to turn off the buddy stuff better than I was, you know?
Okay.
So yeah, I think it was I did have an issue with him, later. I fought in I don't even remember what fight I fought in Philippines, and there was like a team. It was like a team competition, and I was like the heavyweight. It was our team against some of the red team, something like that. And he was the coach of this team, and we had an issue because I was like an hour late for some team for a meeting or something, or I think it was the rules meeting, and he took $1,000. He'd fined me $1,000. He did, not the organization, but he literally, because they paid him, and he took $1,000 from me from the from that. And I was like, are you kidding, Josh? Like you want to see a UFC title before you're making this huge money and stuff like this. Like I'm have nowhere near your money, you know what I mean, that you're doing, and you're taking $1,000 from me. Are you kidding? Like, you know what I mean? And so I was a little pissed about that. And then later, we had I fought in New Zealand or Australia, I think. And so the fighter that he fought, I fought. There was some there's some huge names on this card. I mean, a bunch of UFC former champions on this card. I mean, Matt Lindland fought. And who's that guy with the dreads that beat
Theory Sokoju?
No, he beat God, I can't think of anything tonight. He beat for the UFC
Brian Ebersol?
title.
Was Brian Ebersol on that card?
I think he was. Was. Yes, Carl Snooten. Carl Snooten was on the card. And so afterwards, this promoter.
I think he fought Ebersol.
What's that?
I think he fought Brian Ebersol. All right, so go ahead. I apologize.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, maybe. And so after the fight, this promoter, like, he lost his ass because he didn't promote the fight well. He didn't, like, nobody saw it was supposed to be on pay-per-view, and it was like, well, I mean, we had, for the amount of fighters on this card. I mean, even here, I'm talking to you guys, like, hardly know who was on it. All these times, Barnett was on it. I mean, it was great. It was a great card. And so afterward, like, the guy didn't pay us. And so we were fighting with this guy for months, trying to get paid. And I think I was supposed to make 25 or something like that. And eventually we kept bugging him, and me and the other guys were bugging him, threatening to sue, all this stuff. And I think he eventually paid me, I'm not sure, but I think it was like 10 or 12. And Josh made $250,000. I remember that. And so during this fight for the money, all this stuff, Josh calls me up. I was in Seattle. He calls me up and said, Jeff, like, what the hell are you doing? I said, what do you mean, what am I doing? He said, like, I'm trying to get paid. And he'd already got paid half. He got $125. And he's like asking for the rest of it. He goes, man, this guy hasn't paid me my $125 yet. He still owes me $125 and all this other stuff. And I go, bro, I'm making 20. Like, I haven't got paid a penny yet. I'm trying to get something. He goes, man, just back off him. I want, like, he's basically telling me and the other guys. He told me, he goes, tell everybody else to back off because I want to get paid. I was the main fight on this card. I go, Josh, you're a fucking jackass, man. Like, you're kidding me? Like, you want to make, like, you got to get your $250,000 before we get like 10 grand. Some of the guys were making $5 grand, 10 grand. I think I was one of the highest guys making 25 other than him. So I'm like, Josh, like, anyway, so that, I don't know. So I put a like bad taste in my mouth about him. So,
well, did it affect you at all? Seeing like we had talked about your relationship with Dennis Hallman. Obviously, you guys have got like a sick, twisted type friendship. But Dennis was also in the corner of Josh Barnett. Did you guys communicate before that fight, or was it just all business?
It's all. I mean, like Dennis and I, like we've done like a lot worse things to each other than Josh and I have. But Dennis is loyal, man. Dennis is loyal. Like Dennis, like that incident that I just talked about, Dennis would never be on. He would be on my side. He'd be like,
okay.
He'd be burning down this promoter's house. He wouldn't be, you know what I mean? He wouldn't be like telling me not to collect the money. So,
yeah, good. Okay. Well, you also when you were with American Top Team, I know Josh Barnett would go down and work out with ATT. Were you witness to any of the Hector Lombard, Josh Barnett, like hijinks that took place in Coconut Creek?
I didn't see any of it. I saw some of the Hector stuff with some of the other fighters. You know, he's just when he trains really hard, he just doesn't like think about what he's doing. Like sometimes, you know what I mean? I don't think he has bad intentions. I like him. I don't think he has bad intentions. He's not trying to hurt anybody. He doesn't dislike you, or, you know, and afterwards he's going to go to lunch with you and all that kind of stuff. So I just think that's just personality. Some guys couldn't deal with it. And I could, I guess, you know, because I knew he's just a competitive guy, you know. So if you took it afterwards, he's still pissed at you because of the practice, then now I'd have a problem with it. But it was never that way. You know, we had battles and stuff like that too. But it was just, you know, trying to better ourselves and, you know, try to do the best we can, and not we don't want each other to be injured or anything like that. So
that's interesting. The Global Fighting Championships. Initially, you were scheduled to fight Wes Sims, and then your opponent changed to Chris Gilliam, and then the event got canceled.
Okay.
Do you feel comfortable talking about that, or no? Don't keep going.
I'm not fighting anymore. I can talk about it. So I wasn't clean, I guess, when I said that way, with anabolic. So
I don't believe that, Jeff. I don't believe that. You were clean.
So this was like, they told me before, because I would never go to a fight and cause a problem with the organization. You know, before I fought in the UFC, I made sure, you know, obviously they tested the whatever. So I was clean every time. All this, I never didn't test clean. But at this time, I wasn't clean, because the organization said, we're not going to test you. So I'm like, okay, well, to me, that's like, we're not going to test you for it. That means it's not illegal to do it. So I wasn't clean. And we get there, and the guy goes, the weigh-ins, he goes, oh, we're testing you. I'm like, you're testing me? Like I went to the promoter, I went to the guy and I go, bro, like, you told me you weren't testing me. You said you weren't testing me. He goes, well, we changed the thing. That I'm like, and so I'm like,
a caveat. From what I understand, it was your opponent that kept calling the commission in order to demand a test.
I don't know. I don't know. It's possible. I don't know what the background, why they changed. You know, I can't for sure say. I just know that they were going to test me, and something else happened on the event. Some other person didn't pass their medical. One or two people actually.
Mark Kerr failed for hypertension, and there was one other person. The whole card fell apart. Fell apart.
So the whole card. So I was thankful, man, because they were going to pay me it was like $25,000 or something. I was like just disappointed, but I didn't want. I was either two things. I was going to go fight and either, I don't know what's going to happen. They're going to take my, not pay me because I tested positive, but I was at least going to get suspended, even if they did pay me. So I'm like, this is a no-win, or I don't fight. And they know why. I already told them. I was honest with the guy up front. I said, hey, look, man, you told me, you know, and he said, I couldn't say, oh, I'm injured or something like that. You know, you're full of shit. You know, you didn't do it because you're juiced up. So I was like, I didn't know. So when they pulled the card, I still hadn't told them I was out or in. I just said, man, I was kind of debating. I didn't know what to do, and I said, man, I was. Yeah.
Are you sure? Because and I recall this. From what I remember was they told you you were getting tested. You had a conversation with the promoter, and then you just left.
No, I didn't leave.
No, okay.
No, yeah, no, I was there because actually Dan Lambert went with me, the owner of Top Team, and he's yelling at me like, Jeff, what the hell are you doing? Why are you like taking this stuff? And I'm like, Dan, my mistake, but this is what they told me. And I had my uncle from Minnesota fly out. I hadn't seen in several years, fly out to see me and stuff. Yeah, no, so I stayed there and I hung out, the whole time. I didn't go anywhere. So I was just like, I was just thankful they canceled the card. But so this promoter, ended up screwing me anyway, because I fought Pedro Rizzo a couple of months after this. Maybe a month later. He called, and so they weren't going to test for sure. And so he called that guy, the Texas State Commissioner or whatever, and he said, you test him. You test Jeff Monson. So he said, okay, I will. And so I had to get him in. So I had to quit like cold turkey, which you don't really want to do. And I had to get on all this. Like I got this stuff over the internet that's supposed to clean your system. You don't eat for 6 hours. You take this stuff. You don't eat for 6 hours. And man, it just kicked my ass. It really kicked my ass. So when I fought Pedro, it didn't affect me. I got knocked out in that fight. It didn't affect me. But if it had gone the 5 rounds like it was supposed to, it definitely would have affected me, But so yeah, I got knocked out. So but anyway, I had to get tested in that fight, and so I had to get off everything and do this, and so he ended up getting the last laugh.
Well, so Miguel, ask the Tim Sylvia question.
I will, but just to say, the thing is though, as a grappler in the grappling world, nobody really tests. So you were facing opponents that were juiced up, throughout your whole career in grappling.
Well, the thing is, man, I'm not fighting now, so I can say when I got tested, I made sure I was clean. When I didn't get tested, for Abu Dhabi's, all these guys, man, they just say people aren't jacked. It's just lying to yourself. Everybody, even now today, these guys are, but you know what? It's a level playing field, because they don't say it's not legal. They don't. So why, it's like, if you go into football or baseball or some sport or even fighting, where they say it's illegal and you try to get away with it, then you're cheating. But if they don't say it's illegal, if it's like, okay, you're on it, whatever, we're not testing.
Well, the guy across from you most certainly is. And Miguel and I both worked for Abu Dhabi, and we both had questions, or we both had to have conversations where people said, well, it's not enough time for us to get through our cycle. No. You can't play in the trials, or you can't do this then. We need it a little further out so we can get a couple cycles in us. Those conversations actually took place. Yeah. So, it's...
Well, let me ask that, Tim. So when you fought Sylvia for the title, there's this working rumor in the business that you actually fought it with a wizzanator in your cup to present the test because you were worried. Is that true?
It is true.
That's awesome.
So now, we don't want to implicate everybody there, but was Hallman in your corner? Who's helping you do this? And where'd you get clean piss?
So yeah, sorry, there we go. So I had been off for a while. But I couldn't, it's a UFC title. I couldn't take the chance. And so, yeah, I did get a wizzanator. I got clean pee from, I think, one of my friends I had a bunch of people I paid for to come. I go, make sure you don't have pot. You didn't do nothing. You had a bunch of people that had done pot and stuff that couldn't give me clean pee, but I got clean pee. I fought with the wizzanator.
So Jeff, if you're going to fight with the wizzanator, why even bother being clean at the day of the event?
Well, no, if I get it correctly, he thought he was clean, but because, he was doing fighting, he was trying to stay clean, but because it was the UFC title and there's a cycle, he was sort of worried about it, so he was playing it safe. Is that right, Jeff?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I just didn't want to get like, because maybe something happened that I couldn't use a wizzanator or something, like they tested, or like they watched you take off your clothes. I didn't know how it worked, like because it was getting tighter and tighter, like with the testing. So I didn't know. I just had to be sure 100%. So like if I couldn't use the wizzanator, I'd still have the probability I would have passed the test anyway, because I'd been off a while, and I had been training without it and expecting not to to test positive, but anyway, I tested negative because I hurt my rib at the fight. He broke my rib with a knee in the first round or the third round, and I went to the hospital afterwards, and they ended up taking my blood. And so that's how they tested me, because I was in the hospital, and they just tested for the blood. And so, I came back clean anyway. So,
wow.
But
lucky you.
So, but safe to say, I don't think that would happen anymore. You fought later on. It's like, is that the scrutiny? They watch you take off your clothes. Did you go through that afterwards? Is that how things got?
So what I'm sure has happened is, man, I'm really having trouble with names. Who's the black guy who won the UFC title, light heavyweight, died, he passed away.
Randleman?
Yeah,
he took the heavyweight. He took the heavyweight title.
Yeah, heavyweight. So Kevin
Randleman.
Randleman. Okay. Yeah.
So
he dabbled.
He apparently he fought some fight. Not in UFC. He fought in Las Vegas, and he used the wizzanator, and he used they send you some chemical
powder
some powder that you put liquid in, but it's not pee, and it's not even biologically it's not from an animal. It's just it's supposed to mimic pee, and so, but I guess the test got more sophisticated, and they came back and go, bro, this isn't even human. This isn't even animal pee.
It was cadaver. It was cadaver pee.
Yeah. There were definitely stories like that in the old days that, slowly but surely, I think the system kind of ground down on that.
Yeah.
Thank you for telling us that one, though. And,
well, in order to beat the system, what people would do, and I've used FedEx. I mean, I haven't had a sip alcohol since I was 18. I know people that have FedExed urine to Vegas so they can put the pee in the wizzanator and fight with the wizzanator on.
Wow.
I'm telling you, so, all right. Vengeance Fighting Championship. Don King's foray into the mixed martial arts market. It's in North Carolina. You fight Mark Kerr.
Right.
So what were your dealings with Don King, and how was Mark Kerr in that fight?
So, you're talking about all the real controversial fights.
Hey, Jeff, I'm from Chicago. With Chris and Miguel, my job is to look at look at somebody's record and really pick it apart. We get the best interviews. And we will have Dennis Hallman on here, just so you know. Yeah. So we will be hammering him as well.
Yeah, he'll probably tell you what I did.
Did he ever put a possum in your car?
Oh, that's. So this was good, man. So one night. So I worked at mental health, right? Like that same place, but I was on call. Some nights, 24 hours. I was the mental health professional of the county.
That's frightening, I might add. But go ahead, Jeff.
Well, frightening. So I got called one night in the middle of the night. I go out to the car, same place, that little modular home. Go out, we're in the middle of the sticks. Go out, open the door. There's a possum hissing at me in my car, Like they hit. I didn't know they hissed. They hissed. So I'm like, I just left the door open and I went and took my wife's car, went to work, it was like 2 a.m. And I come back and the possum gone, but it had sprayed it's worse than a skunk because it's not as like poignant where it goes out so far, but in that area, it's like I had to throw away like the car seat covers, the blanket, anything that was in that car that was not like plastic or metal. I had to like throw away. It was bad.
So did you ever just out of the blue, maybe at a party, just attack Hallman?
No.
Just for things of this nature. He's definitely owed one from you.
So okay, I'll have to tell you. So what prompted that was, I went to his house, and he had to leave because he had some issue with something, blah blah blah. Somebody he was putting on a little fight promotion. So I'm at his house. And we're with like all these cousins, all this stuff, all these like lackeys, right? And I'm like, so Hallman leaves, but I'm kind of buddies with them too. So Hallman leaves, he's gone for a couple. I go, bro, you motherfuckers, like I'm getting them back now because you guys are in on it, and I'll beat your ass if you don't like let me do this. So I go in his room, and I get one of his magazines, and his girly magazines, and I like proceed to like make his pillow, and the whole time these guys are like at the door laughing, and I'm like, man, get away, I can't concentrate. I can't with you guys laughing at the door. So it like took forever because they're like laughing and like this, and so I got like some. Like they had like cooking oil from the kitchen I was using, and thought it was a mess. It was a mess. So that prompted the possum.
So you deserve the possum, is what you're saying.
I probably deserve the possum.
So I'm not trying to keep going back. Who helped you remove the furniture from the roof of your house? They at this point, my wife said, Jeff.
This has gone too far. Yes. So they came and did. He didn't do it. He got his lackeys to come and do it. But he said I had to say uncle or whatever it was I had to do at that point because like I wasn't gonna win. Yeah. First of all,
no, it's not worth it. The juice ain't worth the squeeze, man. Just say whatever that you need to say. All right, so I'm sorry. I apologize.
Thank you, Jeff. Let's get back to the fighting, Michael.
Jeff, all that nonsense. Never mind all of that. I'm pretty much done with the nonsense questions outside of Benji Raddick, which is right around the corner. Vengeance Fighting Championship, Don King. What was your dealings with Don King? How was Mark Kerr in that bout?
So I didn't have to actually ever deal with Don King. There was another guy named, let's call him Big Mike. I can't think of his last name. He was from North Carolina.
Okay.
And he's the guy that dealt with Don King, all this other stuff. He called me like from his office. He was in Don King's office. Go, man, Jeff, I'm with Don King. We're gonna put you on. Like Don King, like promised the world this, and ended up he didn't pay nothing. Like short story is he didn't do anything he said, which was like typical you'd expect from Don King. So during the fight, so Mark Kerr is way past the prime. Yeah, he's way past like whatever. And so like he comes up to me, he's like, hey Jeff, man, like I don't want to get like hurt, And I said, look, we got to fight though. And he's like, yeah, we're gonna fight, but just like if we're in a bad position, we'll just like end the fight quick, or whatever like that. And I said, okay. So it wasn't a fixed fight. I've never done a fixed fight, so it wasn't fixed. But so in the fight, I was shocked. He took me down right away. I think because man, I just like he was kind of an idol, because he won my
for sure.
My last year wrestling, he won the NCAAs, or my junior year, I think he won the NCAAs. And then obviously he was, top of the world. I was Abu Dhabi. I remember we both won Abu Dhabi my first year, and he won a heavyweight. I won a light heavyweight, and I went to his room and took a picture together, and kind of buddy a little bit. So it's kind of, I looked up to him a lot. And so this fight, so it took me down. I was shocked, but I got back up and threw some punches. I took him down and I got his back. And when I got his back, man, I stormed punches at the side of his head, and they were like, it's like I probably hit my daughter. I wasn't like hitting him. And then, but then when I got the choke, but I was just looking to choke him. I wasn't looking to
pound him out.
Like pound him out. And I got the choke, and I choked him. Like I choked him. So, but yeah, it's like at that point, like, I'm like, why am I going to bash this guy's head in? So
sure.
And so the promoter, Mike, was really upset about it. He's like, man, why didn't you hit him? And this, so it was kind of like a big ordeal, and he was going to pay me and and then they eventually did. And that's the check bounced that he paid me with. And then
I remember that
he did pay eventually. He did pay. But I think a lot of that was the Don King thing too. It wasn't like just him he didn't want to, but he kept his word and did. But some of that was the Don King thing. But yeah, I mean, it was a fight. I mean, I just could I have hit him harder? Could I have made it better? Yeah, definitely. But I got him down and got positioned to finish the fight. Like if I had never even thrown a punch on top, if I just choked him, nobody would have said a thing. Instead of throwing 4 or 5 weak ass punches and then choking them, then then it just looked bad, I guess. But
the thing about that fight is, Miguel, check this out. He fights Mark Kerr, and then he's got 7 tough fights in a row. He's got 2 fights against Jimmy Ambrose, Rico Rodriguez rematch, Roy Nelson, and I got a little clip. I think Roy Nelson cornered him in his next fight, and he's got Sergey Karatanov. Like the records of those guys combined is 112-51. Like you go on a tear.
Yeah.
Like that's an impressive run.
Yeah, I had a good man. I fought I beat in 3 weeks.
You were in Ireland too against an absolute stud. And I think, did Roy Nelson corner you in that?
Not that one. The next one though. The next one. So I beat Roy Nelson. The next week I go to Ireland, win that fight. The next week I go to Japan and win that against Karatanov, tough guy. So
super tough.
That was good. And I won the ATT NCAA tournament basketball bracket too. So it was like a it was like a pretty good week or pretty good month for me.
So you fight Pedro Rizzo. Obviously, you addressed that already. You lose to him in Texas. And it's like you get the opposite of how rematches are supposed to take place. Like, if you lose in Texas, you don't get a rematch in Brazil. Like, it's –
Yeah.
Like you're the one wanting a rematch, but they're bringing you to Brazil for it.
Yeah.
How does that work? I don't get that.
Yeah. I didn't fight, man. I was just – and what hurt me later on in my career, especially going after Russia, when I was really getting hurt and not recovering is when I lost my eyesight, that kind of stuff. I was fighting just to compete, to fight, not for money, not just because I wanted to fight. And if I lost, they just made me want to fight again sooner to try to erase the bad taste in my mouth from losing. So I remember after the fight with Pedro Rizzo, I got knocked out in Texas. So a week later, I went to, goddamn, I really can't think. I went to not Russia, but
Ukraine, Dagestan,
Turkey. I went to Turkey for the World Grappling Championships. Just again, I won, but it was just because I had to try to win. But I mean, after I had, that's the first time I got really hurt in a fight. I had bleeding on the brain. They took me to the hospital overnight. they stitched up my face, really a mess. And then I'm bleeding on the brain. And so now they're doing a CAT scan. The CAT scan's like $3,000 out of my pocket. And then that they have to do it to make sure they got bleeding, but they got to make sure they got to do it like every 3 hours or 4 hours to make sure it's not getting worse and worse. So they do a CAT scan. They're 3 hours. They do another CAT scan. And remember, this isn't UFC. They're not footing the bill for this medical. I am. And I'm like, I had my wife, she was with me. She like literally, like I'm in the gown. I go, I can't, we're not paying, we got to go. So like we just say, oh, hey, I got to go out and get some fresh air. And we just like in the hospital gown, she had my clothes in a bag, and we went there and called a taxi and like gone. Like, well, I'm not going to stay here and keep getting like $3,000 until they decide to, I'm like in debt, or, I made less than the fight.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's wild. We've taken a ton of your time, so I'm going to start. And Miguel's got some Abu Dhabi questions. So, like, I've got Chaban Ka. You got a draw and 100% fight in Brazil. It was your second time fighting for them. I was kind of surprised at that decision.
Yeah, if you get really all the controversial one. I mean, that was the worst fight ever for decisions. Like, I think he hit me 2 or 3 times in one little thing in that fight, maybe the second round, but I was on top of it. And so this was full MMA wasn't legal. So when you got on top, you couldn't hit him from on top. I took him down, 3 punches, took him down. I was out of a 15-minute fight, I was probably on top of him, trying to whatever for 12 minutes, 13 minutes out of that fight, out of 15 minutes. So like,
this is in Brazil. So how could it be illegal at this point?
No, it was in France. It was in France.
Oh, you know what? It was in France. I stand corrected. I apologize. But weren't you guys doing open hand slaps?
No, it was like you could punch, but it was just on the ground. On the ground, you couldn't punch, or maybe you could slap on the ground, but you couldn't punch on the ground. But anyway, it wasn't like I never got hurt on top, like standing. We're only standing like maybe 2 minutes fight anyway, and I took him down. I was on top like 4 minutes out of every round at least, and it was a draw. I was like shocked. So
yeah, how does the conversation go with the promoter after something like that?
Man, I don't know. I was really pissed. I'm sure I complained, but at some point, what do you do? Like, I don't know. It's like
as long as you get paid at that point,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've been. The one thing I don't think I've been on the other side of too many controversial decisions. It's always, you know what I mean? It's like it's always on this side of it. It seems like,
but 100%, and you can see it. It's like a repeated behavior, but it's also a hometown decision for the most part.
That
like
way,
you could,
it's fun. Yeah.
And I even put Forrest Griffen into that same category. Like to me, like you've got about 100 fights. I could probably find 60 of them. I watched every single one. Like I've got a million notes. I just kind of, we only got so much time with you. This is what I took. All right, Fedor and Alexander Emilianenko. I'm closing with that, Miguel, even though I've got more. And then you can do your Abu Dhabi stuff because Jeff, I am just, usually with Chris, me and Miguel use Chris to like get access and take more time than we're supposed to. But Chris isn't here. So I'm like way over my boundaries. It's like 5 a.m. You get your kids sleeping. So Alexander and Fedor, and then Miguel, your turn.
So Fedor is my first time in Russia, and so it was like a dream for me to fight. I trained hard for this fight, and I thought, I'm going to shoot him and take him down. I watched a lot of his fights, man. He comes like a bulldog, boom, 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 like stalks you down, throws looping punches. I saw him fight Mark Coleman. Beat Mark Coleman bad, but Mark Coleman took him down too. He just ended up getting armbarred. I'm like he's not going to armbar me. So like if I get on top of him, like I'm going to finish this guy. And so like that, I felt really confident going this fight. I trained hard at American Top Team and everything. And I go first time in Russia. I really loved Russia, like the whole thing. And I go in there, and he just he just fought so much smarter than I, right. The difference between me grappling and fighting is like, I think I'm a very good fighter, but I'm not an elite fighter. I got to admit, I'm not like the top of the top. You know what I mean? If I had won the UFC or something, I could maybe say that. So I'm a very good fighter, but not like, not a Hall of Fame fighter, not a great fighter, something like, not a great fighter, a very good fighter. But I think I'm one of the best grapplers, ever, at least competition wise. And the difference is when I fought guys in grappling that were better than me, or that did a different style or did something, I could change on the fly. I could figure out, okay, this isn't working. I could figure out how to win this fight against the best guys. Like, I can figure this out. Maybe he's better at this, but I'm going to change the game and I win. I figure out a way to win. And fighting against the elite guys, I had difficulty doing that. Like I had, like against a Fedor, like if he had come in like he normally did, flipping punches, like attacking, I think I'd take him down and beat him. He just like, you know what, Jeff, I'm going to kickbox you. I'm going to play. And so he threw a lot of like low kicks, jabs, like overhands, but he just kept the distance, man. Every time he knocked me down 4 or 5 times in the fight. And every time, the first time he got on top of me, and I tried like the half guard sweep, got his gun on his hips. He was getting on top, and he just kicked out. And then every other time after that, he knocked me down. He just said, okay, get back up. I'm not coming down there. And so he just made it a kickboxing match. He just fought smarter than me. I couldn't figure out. And, looking back at the fight, like I've watched that tape I should have just attacked, like come in like a Chael Sonnen kind of thing, or boom, 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 throw punches like in on you, pushing against the fence or the ropes, going for like a single leg, whatever, high crotch. But I stayed away, like afraid of his punches and like respected his thing and just didn't change the game. So, so he broke my leg, probably in the second round maybe. And so, so I fought the rest of the fight, and like it was funny because I shook hands with his corner. They raised his hand. I started walking back to my corner, and then it was like, oh, and that was the last step I took for 6 weeks. I was like the adrenaline wore off enough, and so I got. And so this is a bittersweet fight because this is the guy I really like. It would have meant more to me than the Tim Sylvia fight because this was Fedor, but that the next day Putin, so they're trying to get a hold of me, I'm like all pissed off. They don't talk to me, like security's coming in, like I'm shooing them away, all this stuff. We're calling, I'm saying screw you. And then finally they come to the door and I'm not opening the door. I tell my corners, I'm not talking to anybody. They open the door and they go pick up the phone, and they go, security's calling me. And they said, I don't want to talk to security. They go, national security's calling me. I'm like, okay. So we pick it up, and Putin's on the other line. He's like, you had him waiting. You had him waiting for a while. I guess. And so I was like, hey man, you showed the Russian spirit, you tried hard, you did your best, you didn't quit, and we admire you. And, so it was really nice. I mean, cause he wasn't doing it in front of cameras or anything like that. He was doing it cause he's a black belt in judo. He respects, showed some respect. So
did he speak English?
He spoke good English.
I'm not surprised at all.
No, he's a smart guy.
Oh yeah.
And
for sure.
So after that, man, I fought for M1 again and won, and then I beat, some good people, and then had some streaks here and did I was on their night show on Dancing with Stars, on their late night shows and some comedy shows and all this other stuff. So then and doing seminars and stuff, and started, that's how I got introduced to Russia, like being in Russia. So it was bittersweet, you know what I mean? So, and after the fight, I got to say about Fedor, how they got now the Conor McGregor guys are fighting and they're pissing at each other, and it's all it's a WWE. After this fight, man, he came up to me in the corner or in the locker room afterwards, and then he shook my hand, he hugged me, really hugged me. He was like, man, thank you for the fight, like a gentleman, you know what I mean? Like a cool guy. Like after, no cameras, no.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
there's a lot of amazing stuff packed into that segment. Now, let me say something that's going to back up one of the things you said. I think, thank you very much. That's a really, really honest assessment of yourself as a fighter and career. I think a lot of people would say that they concur with that about you being an elite grappler. Let me tell you this. I don't like to put words in Dan Lambert's mouth, but I wanted to ask you this to get you talking about grappling. Dan once told me, he said, to win a grappling match, to save my kid's life, if I could pick anybody to do it, it's Jeff Monson.
Yeah, well, it's nice of him to say that. I like to win.
Yeah. But, is that part of the difference? Like he said, grappling. In MMA, he might have another choice. Are you talk about that?
I mean, I think, you gotta be, of course, to be honest, when you're honest with yourself, you gotta live with yourself. If you're not honest with yourself, then you always feel that thing inside that's not real. You know what I mean? So like, I don't want to think I'm better than I am or anything like that. So yeah, I think I was a solid, like a good fighter, really good fighter. But if I let's look at the, and I mean, let's look at the records, you know what I mean? Like if you look at the elite guys, who did I fight elite? I fought Forrest Griffen. Okay, I'm going to count, I lost that, but I'm going to count that as a win.
I will.
In my own heart, because I did well. But Rico Rodriguez, another U.S. champion, 1-1. But I've lost to Josh Barnett. I lost to Fedor. I lost to Chuck Lidell. I lost to Cormier.
You beat Roy Nelson.
I beat Roy Nelson. I beat
Alexei Olenek.
Yeah, 1-1 with him.
Yeah.
I lost to.
Was it a controversial split decision in your opinion on the win of yours?
I didn't think it was. I thought I won pretty easy. I mean, I took him.
I think it was controversial that it was a split decision.
Yeah. I think it was controversial. I was shocked a little bit. But
I think you were this close to having another controversial fight that I'd be asking you about. That's what I think.
Yeah, my God. Yeah, the next one wasn't controversial. He kicked my ass. So, but yeah, I think most of the real, I fought Mark Kerr way after his prime, so that doesn't count. So I mean, the really, really tough guys that I fought, the UFC champions, I fought a lot of tough guys. I mean, my record isn't that good against these guys, you know what I mean? So I think I was at that doorstep, but I just not that, not the, my grapple, it's a different story. Like the best guys, most of the time I won, where the elite guys and the jiu-jitsu or the fighting, most of the times I didn't win, even if I went the distance, even if it was whatever, I still couldn't figure out how to win. And that's the thing. It's like, how do you, sometimes you just not there's a bunch of grappling matches, man, I fought where I definitely wasn't better than the guy. I know I wasn't. I know the guy was more talented than me, but it doesn't mean, but I still thought I was going to win. And most of the time I did, you know what I mean? When the fight, the fight game, I just didn't, it's a different sport, man. The fight game, I just,
Now, let me take you back to Abu Dhabi then, which is a lot of grappling. We'll try to get through this. But you were on Matt Hume's 99 team, and you broke through and won the whole thing. Everybody there really performed real well. The whole team did, obviously, with Hume's guidance. But you performed real well. And I've heard you talk. Why don't you give props to Matt? Because you were basically very green heading into that, and you ran the table on a very tough tournament.
Yeah, I mean, Matt had me believing that I was going to win the tournament. I remember being at his house. I'd go up to Kirkland, Washington, by Seattle. I drive up there from Olympia a couple times a week, and I'd train at his house sometimes. And I remember with Dennis, we go up with Dennis, and I remember after one training, I was because he's showing the video of the 98, which was the first one. He said, "Man, it's going to be a tougher tournament. This year was the first. 99 is going to be a lot tougher." He goes, and he's showing a video. I go, "Man, these guys are so good," because it was a highlight video. So I was like, they were showing the arm bars and the triangle and all this crazy. I'm like, whoa, bro! I don't know if I like I could probably technically do a triangle, but I wouldn't even for sure get it on like a white belt, like in a match, you know, because or even in training, because I did like.
Wait, Jeff, you're saying you won the Abu Dhabi tournament and you couldn't have performed a triangle choke?
I mean, like I could have done it showing someone, but I would have never got it in a match. You know what I mean? Like I knew what it was. I knew how to do it, but it wasn't like I would never get it against not even in practice. Like, I mean, it was that. I mean, it's brand new, man. This is I've been doing.
It's easy, actually. It's easy. Just don't be on your back needing to do a triangle.
Yeah. So but anyway, when I left his house, he's like, you take these guys down, and Pastor Gar, you're gonna win this tournament. Like nobody's gonna beat you. And so when I went there, I thought I was gonna win the tournament. Like I never once stayed in wrestling. I never was an All-American. I was like one match away from being All-American. I'd gone to the U.S. Open like a bunch of times and to be on the national wrestling team, and tried to be in the top 6. So you're on like the team ladder, and I lost like 3 different times my last match to be on the ladder, like 3 times. Like it was just, almost like it was just my whole life was almost. And then it's like, I go to Abu Dhabi, and I remember I won my first 2 matches. And so the next day was the semis. But I remember that night, because at the semi, if you lost the semis, you'd fight for 3rd and 4th. And I thought, man, I'm the top 4 of the world, the very worst. I'm the top 4 of the world. And I never, like, I'm like this, like I was happy. But then in the semis, like I thought I fought Higa Machado. I had a really tough weight class. I had my quarterfinal match was against Roberto Traven, and he ended up winning the absolute. And I fought Higa Machado, Saulo Ribiero. So it was like I didn't know who any of these guys were, which was like a blessing. But so when I won the tournament, I just walked outside, and it was just like, like this albatross is off my neck finally. You know what I mean? Like I finally succeeded or whatever. But I thought, no, I remember on the plane ride home, I thought, now if it crashes, I'll be all right. You know what I mean? Because I feel better. But by the time I landed, I was already stressed. I was like, man, next year, everybody's going to be out for me. I really got to train. I really got to like get to this next level so it was like lived a couple hours, and I was already back to like being hard again. So.
Now, you talked about Hume and his gifts as a trainer, how he prepared you for that. Now, with ATT, you get a different flavor of another, one of those geniuses in Ricardo Laborio. And one thing we haven't yet mentioned, you've been around the world so many times. You've touched other genius trainers. Like you had some time with early Team Quest, which means like Quest. Robert Follis, maybe Rico Ciparelli, some of those guys there. Talk about some of the differences and what makes each one of them unique. Oh no, he'll be back. He'll come back.
Yeah, we're taking a lot of his time. Let's hit him with the ADCC questions.
Yeah. Jeff, you back?
Well, I'll tell you, so Matt Hume's the best coach ever, just because he's self-trained himself. I mean, he's like a kickboxing champion. He's like knows pancration, he knows jiu-jitsu, he knows wrestling. I mean, he wrestled in college a little bit, like so. Like he's like the master of everything. And then he knows how to put it together in a fight. You know what I mean? Like he can like switch. He could be Muay Thai, and then all of a sudden he's wrestling you, and then all of a sudden he's got your ankle. It's like it's crazy. Like how his transitions is what makes him special. Like being able to transition and teach you how to transition. That's the difference between him and mentally prepared. He's just like you think you're going to win. Like you think you're going to win, and he prepares you to do that. I remember like Team Quest, going down to Team Quest sometimes, going up to Matt's, and like Team Quest was great. There wasn't a better room at that time for getting, I come down there, Matt Lindland, Couture, Hallman,
Henderson.
Dan Henderson, Chael Sonnen, like all in the same room. Like, and we'd go like 10 5-minute goes. Like with a different partner. Okay, 5 minutes. And what I liked about this training was you went 100%. The strikes weren't 100%. With the little gloves on, and you could punch, kick, everything. You didn't hit 100%, but you wrestled, you submitted, and you hit. I mean, you had some contact. So it was like you didn't walk out of there hurt. But can you imagine going like 50 minutes of hard, of like you're in a fight training with like that, with, I went with Couture, now I went with Matt, or with Dan Henderson, now I went to like Chosana, and now I went. Yeah. So Robert was a great coach to preparing you too. He great guy, great coach. But of course I'm biased, but the American top team, and man, what makes them so great is they got guys from every different aspect. So I remember first it was like Conan and Marcelo Silveria, and they were like Marcelo's like a jiu-jitsu guy, Conan's like had did some fighting, but they're basically jiu-jitsu guys, and they brought in boxing, they brought in like the wrestling guys, they brought in like the conditioning guys, they brought in like all the guys that can help you prepare to win. Like, so you have like you go in, there's never been a better preparation for a fight than when you're with American Top Team. And they brought in the tough guy. I mean, look at all the guys that are down there now. It's crazy. Every time I go there, there's 3 or 4 new guys, and the guys are going there now to train there because it's such a good camp. And all the guys get along so good. That's like it's like really, really like a team, man. Like a team isn't even the word. It's like a family. And I know the word that gets kind of thrown around like, oh, we're family, but it's really like a family. There's no there's no, you're fighting with like Amanda Nunes, one train or like one go, and then you're going with like another UFC fighter, and then you're going with some guy that's been training for three weeks. It's like there's no like a chip on your shoulders, no aura. Everybody's like, hey, yeah, everybody wants everybody to do well. There's no jealousy. I mean, where else can you walk in from the street, join a club or join a team? It's just like some, after work, whatever activity, and you'd be training with some of the best guys or be in the room with some of the best guys in the world and women in the world. So that's kind of sets it apart.
So now we talked a little bit about protesting and nudity and stuff like that. I'm going to take you back to Abu Dhabi. Now you went down to Brazil. This is 2003. Now, as you mentioned, when you get to the quarterfinals there, you're in the money and stuff. But before that, you take a loss, you go home with nothing. And you got Saulo Ribiero, another champion. Talk about how that match played out and talk about your memories of it.
So I was in in my tournament or in my weight class, I fought Pe De Pano. That's the first time I fought Pe De Pano, and I lost. Like he beat me. I think he won by event, but or I got a minus point, whatever. He beat me. He outclassed me. I was just pissed off at myself. And so I did the absolute. Now the absolute, I'm just fired up. I'm just like, okay, I'm ready. Like I'm going. So I get Saulo first round. And man, I like without how you can't with beating someone's ass without scoring a point is what I did for like 10 minutes. We went to overtime. I did it. And I did overtime in 10 minutes. I mean, I was like shooting, throwing him off the mat, snapping him down, everything like crazy. And then he even pulled guard. Like he kind of did a half shot and then pulled guard, so he wouldn't get the minus. And man, I was like almost passing his guards. Well, he just like quit doing that because it's like, man, this guy's like almost passing my guard. So we just kept on the feet. And at the end, we went into overtime and they raised his hand. And I was like, man, I couldn't believe it. I just went nuts. Like I shook his hand. He had nothing to do with it. Shook his corner's hand. And then when I went and yelled at the ref, and then I was walking out of the rink, and I just took off my shorts and threw them into the stands. And so they're gonna, I heard, like, I didn't know this at the time, but so I walking into the locker room, they're coming to arrest me. Like the police or the security guys, or take me away or something. I don't know what they're going to do. And my coach, Marcelo, they were coming to go. He just said, "What are you guys doing?" He's speaking in Portuguese, of course. He's saying that he goes, they just fucked him. When you get fucked, of course you got to be naked. So why? So yeah.
That's interesting. Now you mentioned earlier Xande Ribiero and Saulo. So obviously there's a rivalry there. Talk about them and some of like let's name a top 3 of the grapplers you faced, because you faced them all.
Wow. So Xande's more like, I always felt more in danger with him. You know, I felt more like at risk and like he was more dangerous. I never felt like, for example, when I fought Saulo in '99, I beat him in the finals. At some point in this 40-minute overtime match, he got a triangle on, but it was like on the end of like right on the edge of the mat. So we went back in, and I gladly put my arm back into the triangle so he could get it, so I could get out again. Like I had zero fear that I was like he could do anything. Whereas Xande, I never felt comfortable. I just never didn't. You just never feel comfortable with him because he's moving. He's fast. He's, you know. And this doesn't take anything from Saulo. Saulo, he's won just as much as Xande. It's just I think it's just a style, you know, style.
And a little bit of the size too, I think too. You know?
Yeah, the size, of course. Yeah. He's smaller.
You earlier in the interview, I'm going to let you get back and mention your guys, but earlier in the interview, you mentioned an Abu Dhabi legend to me, and that was Mark Robinson. Talk about that guy.
Wow. So I fought him a match, and I was underneath him for this whole match in North Carolina to the last 30 seconds, and I swept him, and I got the win. It was like $5,000 take winner takes all. And it was like the final. So I was really happy. And so I got him in the finals of Abu Dhabi. And I'm like, okay, I beat this guy before. And the match went basically the same way. But he wouldn't let me sweep him. And, I went this, and it came down to like a ref's decision. And then he got the decision. So I guess I can't complain, because it's like I shot in, he squished me. I pulled guard, tried to pass, couldn't pass. I tried to sweep him, I couldn't sweep him. So who wins? Like it could be, flip a coin. So he was really strong. He was really strong.
You're talking about a guy that Jeff just said he squished me. I mean, what is it?
That's frightening.
It's like I could get squished. Jeff Monson doesn't really get squished. But go ahead. You got 2 more you owe me. Grapplers you didn't like to face.
Grapplers I didn't like to face.
That list is really short.
Yeah. Cyborg was pretty tough.
Okay.
Because he did that. What do you call that? He put it. You're in open guard. You put his legs over. Put his feet down over his head, and he still can't pass him and stuff like that. So, like for a flexible guy, really, really flexible, Gumby-ish kind of guy, he was really strong. So it was like he's really, and his wrestling was pretty good too. So he had pretty good wrestling. He was really
strong. His gym is phenomenal. He's got a phenomenal gym.
Oh yeah. I was there one time, but I was there so long ago that I'm sure it's changed and much better now.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. Well, that's good for him, man.
Yeah.
Now you talked about Kerr back in Abu Dhabi. How formidable did you see him as a rival and like as a guy who really strutted his stuff there?
Yeah, I thought. See, that would have been. I think when he won Abu Dhabi, and I won Abu Dhabi the same year. He was heavy. I was light heavy. He was like 220, 221. I was like 217. So that because the weight class was like 2. He was I just barely made it under, and he was barely over. So that would have been a tough match. That would have been tough because at that point he was, at his prime, really good wrestler, obviously. We had a lot of the same style at that point. So it would have been kind of a similar style. And I think it probably wouldn't have been super exciting. Like the fight, like if I were to fight Kerr in his prime and when I was in my prime, I would definitely want to try to win the fight on the ground by a sweep or something like that. So I think I'm like 100% sure my jiu-jitsu skills were better than his, at least after 99, where I actually learned jiu-jitsu and stuff, but than his ever were. But like, he's such a physical specimen, and like we had such similar styles, I think it would have taken the point to where I could play bottom game in order to beat him. So
okay, that's fair enough.
Excellent.
Now, when you lost early in Abu Dhabi, then you joined the Absolute that 1 year, as you talked about. But traditionally, you won your tournament. You skipped the Absolute tournaments a lot, and I remember talking to you about it, and you said that just the mental game of getting up for a tournament and that whole thing, you were good for one, you didn't want to do two. Talk about your memories of that. Do you regret not doing the Absolutes?
I mean, now I do, because I'm done fighting. Of course, I want to get back out there, but I think, like, realistically, my game, like, it was a grind. I mean, not a lot of them, at least at Abu Dhabi with the elite grappling. A lot of my matches ended by submission, but a lot of, like, most of my fights, like grappling matches at that level, were not only going the distance, going into overtime, going into, like, grind. It was, man, I fought Saulo, that was a 40-minute match. I fought Hegan before that. That was a 20-minute match. I fought, before that, I think I had like a 1 overtime. So that was a 20-minute match. Like, that's a lot. And then to think about going into overtime was tough. You know what I mean? Or, I mean, not overtime, but like another whole tournament to get yourself up for. It was pretty hard, especially like, I was just like physically. I mean, I expended a lot more energy than most of the other guys, just because due to my style, I think.
Jeff, I think also you don't want to be on the receiving end of a Marcelo Garcia type highlight reel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're a heavyweight, like you don't.
Yeah.
But no, and I appreciate that. Another factor, because I remember now we're talking. I was at the '99 Abu Dhabi's. Like, this was your debut kind of thing, and I remember you flying home, and you had to lie down on the floor of the plane because of chronic back problems. That really, you got the close to 90 MMA fights, all of these grappling fights with a really bad chronic back. At times, you needed chiropractors. Shots, I found the name.
Newbane?
Yeah, some type of shot or something to get you going. Talk about the chronic back thing and how that affected you too.
I mean, it was an issue. I mean, I can, it's pretty cool. I can honestly say, like, it's never affected me. Well, I can say it's never affected me in a fight. Maybe because of adrenaline, maybe because I warmed up enough, maybe because of, and maybe after the fight it was sore, maybe something like that. But I never, like, even when I won or lost or whatever, that I never can say, oh, my back played a part in it, like grappling or fighting, like, ever. So that was nice. But I remember, that 99. So that was 22 hours back to Seattle, going through, I think.
That's brutal.
Yeah, we had one stop somewhere.
Holland or Germany or something.
Yeah. Well, where's the guy? We can't think of the city of sin. Amsterdam.
Yeah, Amsterdam.
It's usually Amsterdam. Yeah, it's Holland.
Yeah. So, but man, I remember that plane ride. See, now what I do in the plane is I go down on my knees. As soon as we take off, I go on my knees. I face the seat and just kind of put my belly and chest on it and just kind of hang over it and just kind of.
Imagine sitting next to him and he doesn't tell you he's going to do that, and you're just.
But I tell everybody. I go before we take off. I go, I'm not sick. I'm not going to throw up. But I'm doing this because my back hurts. Just FYI.
There's nothing in my duffel bag. There's no surprises. There's no surprises.
But at Abu Dhabi, man, I didn't realize I would do this, or I was too embarrassed or whatever. So I remember I went into the bathroom and I was standing there for like an hour, 2 hours, and then I'm like, fuck. So I walk out, and then it's like turbulence, and I had to sit. I'm like hurting. I'm like, fuck. So I went back in the bathroom where they couldn't tell me to sit down. And I remember like on the floor, I got on my I got on my neck and put my feet up in the air. And so my back,
on the
upper back,
bathroom
and
floor
it's
of
piss.
An airplane.
It smelled like piss. I mean, it made me like almost now thinking about it. But my feet are up on the up in the air, kind of leaning, like hanging on the counter. My back is like, because it's so tiny, it's a fucking like airplane bathroom. But I'm laying on my back and piss on this floor just because I don't want to. Like, I don't want to hurt my back, you know what I mean? So it's
Jeff, are you not a germphobe at all?
No, not really.
Yeah, it's a Viking.
Yeah, you can't be when you're doing that shit, right? So yeah, so it's like you gotta choose your poison.
Was that your worst injury though? What was the worst injury you went through and all this stuff? Like
I fought in Korea and got poked. It's actually the week after I fought Alexander. So I fought in USA, won. I fought in Poland, won the World Grappling Championship. Went to beat Alexander in Russia, then went to Poland, won the World Grappling Championship. So the next week went to South Korea and fought and won this fight against some wrestler guy. But in the last 10 seconds of the fight, he threw a punch and it got poked in the eye. And I couldn't see, so I freaked out. And so I grabbed him and just kind of held on for the last 10 seconds. So I won a decision, but I couldn't see afterwards. And they're just like, oh, they put literally some ointment on the outside of my eye. I'm like, man, I can't see. So on the way home, we had a 24-hour stay in Beijing. And because you need a visa, but if you have a plane ticket showing that you're whatever, you can go into the city. So I took I went right to the hospital, and they looked, they go, yeah, you got a detached retina.
Oh wow.
So they took pills. So I went back to Russia, and then I was going to stay in Russia for a couple of weeks, but I took the next plane instead of going back to instead of staying in Russia, I went back to US, and the doctor saw it, and eventually I had surgery. I could see light, a little like light and kind of figures, and then they had to cut off anyway, 3 surgeries later, I can't see out of my eye. So I'm like blind. So I fought like probably 20 times or something like that with literally one eye, but obviously none in the state. Well, a couple in the States, but I had
smaller shows, yeah.
Yeah, smaller shows. So
which eye is it?
This eye. Left eye.
Are you still having issues seeing out of it?
No, I'm blind. I'm 100% blind.
Wow, that's some Harry Greb stuff.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, but then I had like 2 bicep tears repaired. I had the shoulder in a fight. The shoulder ligament tore. Had to have that repaired, like surgical repaired. The knee surgery had a hip replacement, like heart surgery, like a bunch of stuff. So,
wow,
man, that's intense.
Jesus.
Well, Jeff, we're coming up on 3 hours, and I want to keep talking. So, I know Mike does too, but why don't we just go ahead and wrap it up? And
okay.
We'll just
keep Jeff.
number.
One thing.
Go, Mike.
Do you have a message for Dennis Hallman that you'd like to say to him?
Yeah, I miss him, man. I haven't seen him in a long time. So yeah, I kind of miss. It's hard to make it out there, especially with the virus and stuff like that. But yeah, I miss him. I hope he's doing all right.
That's awesome.
Are you happy?
He's like one of those guys you always can when you know what I mean, you have that connection with. When you see him, it'll be like it was.
Yeah, you guys exchange bodily fluids. There's without a question of that, you guys are friends.
But you happy in Russia overall as we wrap up? Like life treating you good? You married there, have a kid, you're starting a life there. You happy?
Yeah. So what I'm doing quickly is, the governor of this region of the Bashkortostan region, invited me down here. So I'm opening up. It's like the old USSR, man. We're opening up in all these grade schools. We're opening up a Jeff Monson Grappling Academy. So it's part of their school. So after school, they have the option. They can do wrestling, they can do basketball, they can do swimming, or they can do my academy. So I'll coach at some of the schools, but I'll have a coach at the ones that if I'm not there that day. So I want to do this. I'm in a city called Ufa. And so we want to do this with like 25 schools here. And we just opened 3 now. I've only been here in this city a couple months. So we've opened 3, want to open like 25 and then go on to different parts of this region. So the goal is to bring it to every school in this area, like over 1,000 schools, and then make a competition team from the because these guys are good wrestlers. They wrestle at early age. So we want to get the best guys that want to do it and say, hey, you want to train with us and be part of our team and stuff. And we do this for the kids. It's all for free, man. It's all for free. It's like really governor, as the administration, they just give me a salary, and no matter if I have 1 school or 100 schools. So man, I just want to just spread this all over and bring grappling here. So yeah, it's awesome. like good kind of a dream job, really. So
awesome, man.
Excellent. Awesome. Jeff, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely, like I said, we're gonna reserve the right to reach out to you again, but we're gonna cut it short here for you so that you can begin your day. Thanks very much, boss.
Your wife is gonna kill you. I'd go to bed, man. Pretend like you still have. Thanks, buddy.
Check out the full interview on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms.